can.
Hello. Not really ready, but
You don't have to give the formal, don't worry.
let's see which part I want to show. I'm Christine Chung at the Polia Hub. I have experience in family counseling, specialized in youth counseling, but now I'm moving into a life coach role and continue on helping people going through some challenges, life challenges, and yeah, that's it.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just gonna draw everyone's attention. Alayna is here too. Hi, Alayna. Thanks for coming. We're just doing quick introductions on everyone's business. We just started with Christine, who is a life coach. Her business name is Qualia Hub, and she just got a quick chance to say hello to Savannah, who is also here. Max, you can go next.
Hello, Savannah. Hi, Alayna. My name is Maxwell. I run Face-to-Face Vintage. I'm currently a Fanshawe student. I'm in the Fashion Marketing and Management program. And I sell vintage clothing online, trying to promote just better alternatives to fast fashion.
Nice.
Awesome. Kristen can go next.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. I'm Kristen. My company is Soul Runners, and we teach running programs that are inclusive to all fitness levels.
Awesome. And Kelly?
Hey guys.
Kelly!
Hey!
Oh my gosh. You made it.
I made it. I made it. We moved into an apartment today. It's like 10 p.m. here, so
Amazing.
yeah, I know Alayna and Sav. They, and shameless plug, they both own some of my lamps. So Sav owns 2.
I do.
Yeah. So they know what I do already.
I'm so happy you're safe.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I just got done our 2-week quarantine, so that was a lot. Like, spent so much money on takeout, and then we got to explore the city yesterday, and then moved into our apartment today. So it's a lot.
Awesome.
And it's tiny, so.
Thanks, Kelly. Suraj, you can go next.
Hi, Savannah. Hi, Alayna.
Hi.
My name is Swaraj, and I'm the owner of Taxably. Taxably provides a user-friendly, affordable, reliable online platform that makes taxes easier for people. We primarily focus on students and young entrepreneurs and professionals. We also pledge to plant a tree for every client that avails our services this year. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Aaron?
Hi, how are you? So my name is Aaron. I'm here with Omar. We're the founders of Nitro Route. Nitro Route is an app designed to help delivery drivers save up to 30% of their day by creating optimized and planned routes within seconds. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Omar, you can go next as well.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm like Aaron said, I'm here with my partner Aaron, and we run an application that helps delivery drivers save up to 30% of their day and get them home early.
Awesome. Chris?
So my name's Chris. I am the founder of Bernice. So we create dog apparel and accessories in unique prints and styles, and we're also on a mission to give back to animals in need, but through our donation program.
Awesome. And Jared?
Jared, are you there?
Okay, I might just be in the bathroom or something. We'll go to Tyler.
You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Good day, everyone.
My name is Tyler French, Agosco Benez, owner of Celebration Event Facility Museum, which is an Indigenous-owned and operated on Chippewa Thames First Nation. Celebration is located just 30 minutes west of London, Ontario. Our mission is to open up a tourist destination Indigenous artifact museum focusing on the history of North American Indigenous people. To obtain this goal, we'll be offering outdoor events such as weddings at an affordable price point. Jimmy Gwetch for your time today.
Awesome, thank you. And Charlene?
Arlene, are you still with us?
She might be on set now, so.
Sorry.
All good.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Charlene. I'm from Real Model Mom Academy. Actually, I'm starting Real Model Mom Academy, and I teach young women how to enter the entertainment business, both on and off the street, teaching many skills and guiding their parents along the way.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlene. We'll try Jared one more time. Jared, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. I was just running. I was just stepped out of my room. I'm Jared Rogers, owner operator of JR Welding, specialized in custom fabrication, mainly in fire pits, wood stoves, and trailers. And we look forward to building anything and everything for any customer.
Jared, I need a fire pit. You're the guy.
I am the guy. I'm not in London right now, but I'm building these really high-end, fancy, customizable fire pits. And basically any design you want cut into the edge we can do. And it just looks really good at the end because the fire kind of goes through the image and it just looks beautiful.
Amazing. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I'll grab your info and maybe I can show you some samples.
Yeah, I love that for sure.
Hell yeah.
Great, love it. Okay, perfect. So everybody has had a small introduction, which is great. I didn't miss anybody, did I? I don't think so. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little introduction for our panelists. Robin Henry, who was supposed to join us, might just be a bit behind. So in the meantime, I will jump in on their behalf and do a little answering myself, if that's okay with everyone. But I'm very, very excited to have Alayna and Savannah here, who I have known for probably almost 2 years now in many different ways. Very excited to meet them. Alayna, who is a past graduate of the program and has done many presentations for us, which is really, really great. And then Savannah, who you guys all just heard, used to work at this program and coordinate all of it too. So it's really great to have two people who understand the inside of this and what kind of insight is best for you guys. And then Robin, who I've also known for about 2 years, is also a really, really great person to know in this community. Okay, so we'll start with Savannah. So Savannah, whose pronouns are she, her, is a longtime community member and event planner, bringing London together through meaningful and fun initiatives such as the Grass Music Festival, Winter Spectacular, London Girls Rock Camp, and the exhibition Women to the Front at Museum London. These are all just a few of the great things that I've had a chance to see her coordinate. As the Dundas Place manager, which is her current role, she's working towards making Dundas Place a welcoming space for everyone, building community connections, coordinating events, and to manage this epic new outdoor space. So if you guys don't know what Dundas Place is, it is the amazing new flex street that takes up Dundas from Rideout all the way to Wellington. That flex street is meant to give the businesses and the community of Dundas Place the opportunity to go out, to walk without the worry of cars or anything like that. And actually all of the remaining weekends of August, it will be flexing. So there will be no cars Friday and Saturday evenings, as well as Sunday afternoons. So you guys can go out there, see what's happening. Some of the businesses will have their stuff outside, get a drink on a patio, all great stuff like that. So really excited to have Savannah here for that reason. Alayna, who you guys have seen before, whose pronouns are also she, her, is the Forest City sweetheart behind Soft Flirt, a home decor and apparel lifestyle brand that combines textiles, hand lettering, and screen printing to create minimalistic items with a tender focus. Alayna is on the board of directors at Forest City Gallery, has her shop at the Western Fair Market, and activates her community through multiple collaborations and initiatives such as Punk Rock Flea Market, as well as Gricklegrass, Print Pop, and the Small Business Christmas Party, which is one of my favorites. She's a studio member at City Rest, which is also where Robin works, a workspace in London's Old East Village community, which houses many other local businesses and independent artists. Kelly also had her studio there. And as I mentioned, she is a 2017 graduate of the Leap and Accelerator program. Thank you, Alayna, for being here. I'll give Robin's introduction as well. So Robin, whose pronouns are they, them, is an Indigenous Two-Spirit multidisciplinary artist and illustrator of French and Anishinaabe background. They are a graduate of the Yukon School of Visual Arts, and upon returning home, launched Antler River Press, a short-run silkscreen brand located in London, Ontario. Robin has brought their live printing to many events and has collaborated with many London brands such as Life of Leisure, Anderson's Craft Ales, Forest City Beer Fest, Pride London, and Regional HIV/AIDS Connections, just to name a few. They're a studio member at City Rest as well, and a mentor and outreach coordinator of the Out of Sound Residence program, a program which aims to bridge the gap between culture, art, and entrepreneurship through screen printing and supporting Indigenous artists and youth via paid apprenticeship programs, community workshops, and collaborative art projects. So really, really amazing stuff that they are up to, along with Savannah's husband, ironically. So they're all very connected, as you can see. Awesome. So I'm very excited to have all of you here. So since I will be filling Robin's role temporarily, hoping that they join us, I will have Kelsey ask the questions. So she has them in front of her, and I think any of us can just go ahead and answer. I will let Savannah and Alayna take the lead for the most part. Go ahead.
Thank you, Andre. And as Andre is on our panel, I'm just going to read a quick bio about him as well. It is in the first person though, because the only one I have from him is written that way. So Andre Gozone, whose pronouns are he, him, says, "Hello, I'm Andre, an artist, illustrator, and graphic designer currently based in London, Ontario. I'm a graduate of Fanshawe College and hold an advanced diploma in graphic design. My nearly 6 years practice include traditional visual arts, editorial illustration, printmaking, publication design, and I have a strong passion for striking imagery and friendly, accessible design, and neat original artwork. I am excited about working with other creatives and motivated people to create unique experiences for audiences all over." And I see that Robin has joined us.
Yes, just on time, actually. That's great.
Perfect. Would you like me to still take over with the questions and you can participate, Andre, or would you like to?
No, I can do the questions. That's great.
Cool.
We're just waiting for Robin to connect. Hey, Robin. I think you're muted right now. Try saying something this time.
Hello?
Awesome. Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm so sorry I'm late. My my alarm to let me know it started didn't go off.
No worries. I just gave a quick introduction on who you are, and we'll give you, actually I'll give you a quick overview of the businesses you have in front of you today. So Christine is Qualia Hub, which is a life coach. So she's dedicated to helping people feel better about themselves, gain confidence. Maxwell Deacon, who's Face-to-Face Vintage. He has a vintage store here in London, looking to expand into a brick and mortar store, and is really passionate about the textile business, particularly around fast fashion, and ending fast fashion essentially. Kristen, who is Soul Runners. Kristen has a business based around running programs. So she's looking to help people learn how to run, gain confidence there, feel better about their bodies through that way. Kelly Ben Ray, who you know very well. Don't think I have to give an introduction for her. Suraj is behind Taxably. So Taxably is a company based on helping taxes become kind of more approachable, easier, all online, like a streamlined process, and also giving back to the planet through planting trees. We have Chris Boys of Bernice. Chris's company is around dog collars, so creating accessories for dogs, fun prints and things like that. We have Aaron as well as Omar, who are behind Nitro Route. So Nitro Route is a delivery service for helping delivery drivers kind of find the fastest routes for delivering their packages and saving them time. We have Jared of JR Welding, who is a professional welder, creating custom work, fire pits, wood burning stoves, stuff like that. And Tyler, Tyler is behind Celebration, which is an event facility and museum focused on Indigenous culture, Indigenous artifacts, and in creating inclusive space for all. And Charlene, Real Model Mom Academy, is looking to help women or anybody really entering the modeling industry with confidence, knowing what to do, what not to do, safety, all those things, and to feel good when they're on their job. So that's a good overview of everybody. I just told them about you, everything you're up to with Antler River Press, and I have Sound Resonance as well. So we're just gonna get into the questions. So I thought it'd be nice if we just started with defining community for each of you. So this panel is really focused on how each of you have integrated yourselves into individual communities, how you have also come together to collaborate on certain things. And I'd be interested to hear what your definition of community is to begin with. We'll start with Alayna.
Okay. So I think, like as a general overview, communities are created around like-minded individuals, gathering support for each other, typically around shared interests or beliefs. And for me, community has become like the driving force behind where all of my support for my business comes from, where a lot of my inspiration comes from, and just a lot of the joy in my life is around connecting and collaborating with other people. So yeah, short and sweet definition for me, but that's what I'm thinking.
Awesome. We'll go with Robin next.
I guess for me, I think of kind of like two very different things when I think about community. Like I came into, you know, my work largely through like the arts community and the music community in London. And so that's like, you know, lots of small groups that are all taking care of each other, whether it be like an art gallery or a like an arts collective or even just like a band. So to me, like it kind of ends up being like a lot of small pockets of people that like take care of each other and interact with one another. And then in another, on the flip side, I guess I associate community heavily also with my indigeneity. You know, in the one community we have elders and people who have, you know, it's a community that has existed forever. And the other one, it's in the arts community, it's like quite a fresh and like new and young thing. So I think the two are pretty different from each other, but for me, like pretty intrinsic. And in a lot of ways, like the two have become one in my life, you know, like through Resonance, my business partner, Adam, and I have been able to like kind of serve both the arts community and the Indigenous community. And it's actually been like a very, been a really nice thing to be able to like have the two not exist like separately.
Yeah, I actually agree with both Alayna and Robin. For me, community has really evolved, I would say, too. I mean, I think that when I think about what I was first doing here in this community was really focused in music. But now that I work so closely with the business community and I'm seeing that side of it, there are moments in my like new business community that I'm existing in, but it's connected to my music world. Like it's all molding into each other, but people are growing up and evolving. And I don't know, it's definitely about like-mindedness, but just because somebody owns a brick and mortar doesn't mean they don't care about the music community, doesn't mean they don't care about the visual arts community. We're finding like a lot of it is really coming together. And I think if one thing that has really sort of been proven in this exact moment of this pandemic is that community has never been more important, and we've never been so adaptable. Perhaps we're all really open. Like even just a gathering like this is so common and normal now, and even like 4 months ago it was so weird. We're like, well, I'm never going to see anybody again, it's all over. But in fact, it's proven that it's not over, it's just evolved. And I think that that's been a really magical thing to kind of watch. It's been difficult for sure. I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I'll be the first one to tell you it's been a tough quarantine over here for me, but it's also been really special to see community evolve. So I think community is also resilient. I think if you really care about things and if you really are connected with people and spaces and places, you will continue to find that resiliency no matter what's thrown at you. And that is what makes community really special and important. Does that make sense?
Totally. Thank you for that. So you all touched on kind of your backgrounds within your individual communities, how that's maybe changed, how it's kind of morphed into something else or been combined with something else, which I think is really interesting. I'd love to know some history on each of you. So your history with London and the communities you're a part of, if you're able to touch on that and then maybe how it's changed a little bit. We'll start with Robin.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's been like a big thing of like constant evolution, you know, like I said, I really started through the music scene, specifically like the punk scene, where I was like an angry, like angsty troublemaker, you know, like if I didn't, you know, get to go see a punk band start a fight and run from the cops on every Saturday, like it wasn't a good weekend kind of thing. And, you know, I really live like comparatively a very wholesome life now, you know, and so I went from like, you know, causing trouble, but like relying really heavily on that sense of community that like going to these concerts, going to these events like provided. That was kind of like my ground, like it was my, I guess, like safety. And I guess it just like slowly evolved from like being a participant and someone who really relied heavily on going somewhere and knowing a group of people to like keep myself grounded. And I don't think I even acknowledged it as such at that time. And then you know, I would do a drawing, someone would say, hey, that's cool, can you put that on a shirt? And eventually I was like, I guess I could learn about silk screening. I've heard about it. And you know, printing it on, building that skill set. And I didn't really like take it very seriously for a long time. It was a hobby, you know, something I did in the basement for like my band, which was awful, or my friends' bands, which were mostly also awful. And then, yeah, and it just like started as like a slow thing. And then eventually like it started to dawn on me that like it's a little bit, you know, when you partake in a community for several years, and I've relied on it for several years, I started realizing how important it was to me. And so started feeling that it was my responsibility to make sure that it was a positive community, started making sure that it was like encouraging other people to make art, you know, like it was, yeah, I guess I started realizing that it was, yeah, I guess like you get to partake in it so long, you only get to partake in something so long before it's your responsibility to like make sure that it continues on, you know. And for me, that silk screening, you know, like printing shirts for bands and for my friends evolved into like a lifelong career at this point, you know. Now it's, you know, I went from printing like 3 shirts for a band to now like seldom a week goes by where I'm not printing like 200 to 300. So it's it like evolves in like while supporting the community has mutually supported me. And you actually get a lot more out of it when you like are actively like creating it and taking care of it.
Awesome, thank you. I really love that you touched on that you went from a participatory kind of a participant, I guess, to a facilitator or somebody who's making this still happen. I think that's really important as well. As our businesses grow, as we grow as people, that gets handed down to us. We'll go next to Alayna.
So thinking about it a lot, my history with London and like our communities here definitely for me started with the art community. I've been all my life an artist, you know, identifying as an artist in some capacity and finding myself mostly drawn to that and interested in the ways that I can exist in that framework. So for me, it kind of evolved from, you know, going to Beal Art for a year to going to Western for my Bachelor of Fine Art degree. And then you kind of pull in your other interests. So for me, that was music. And I'm not a musician, but I've always really loved music and the music community. And for me, the London community has sort of spiraled out from this, like, I honestly can like pinpoint it back to like 7 or 8 years ago, meeting this one group of people. And then those people introduced me to other people, which led me to, you know, Adam and Savannah, which led me to this like broader music community as a whole. And then that kind of like confidence around having community and meeting more people and people liking your art led me to like thinking that, you know, maybe I can sell my work. And then that led me to the entrepreneur community in London. So all these things have felt really interconnected for me for a really long time, and always largely based around, you know, that chance meeting somebody, and you don't know like what that's gonna lead you, what that relationship's gonna look like in the future, but finding really, really lovely ways to like connect with different people around London. So for me, lately, like the entrepreneur community and the arts community for me are kind of the two big things that I've been participating in. And they've both helped me grow as a person and as like a business myself. And then allow me to kind of create new communities. So one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is like our local plus size community. So I've been trying to do some events around, you know, facilitating connections and like fun spaces for, you know, people that I can advocate for. And so for me, that looks like hosting plus size clothing swaps and things like that. And I think some of what Robin was saying about becoming kind of a leader in your community, I guess, for me with my work at Forest City Gallery, and specifically a new role that I'm moving into with working on our youth council. It's allowing me to advocate for young and emerging artists in our community, which is something that I feel really strongly about. So yeah, I think that it's really beautiful to like think back about how you started in a scene or like a community. And for me, London's always been like a really beautiful, beautiful community. I've always really loved the areas that I've gotten to be a part of. And yeah, it's like a really fulfilling part of my life. And I think it's great. And I'm really happy to be talking about community today.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that you are a perfect person to be talking about it. I'm glad you mentioned specifically the clothing swaps, the plus size clothing swaps that you've organized, because I think it really illustrates that there are no boundaries to what we can do. There are no boundaries in the sense of, well, my business is this, so I have to stick to this. Like, no, we are multifaceted people, right? So what else can I do for my community that it maybe is something to do personally versus purely out of profit or whatever, right? Each of you have also talked about working with youth, which I think Savannah will most likely talk about it as well. But you and Robin have both talked about that. So we'll talk about it, I think, a little bit more later, which I think is really interesting. We can't forget that youth are a big part of our community, and also that we are the ones that will be eventually handing our communities down to them, right? So equally as important to include them. Savannah, go ahead.
Mute. There I am. I mean, how much detail do you want here?
I think I want to about 5 minutes, so you can take about 5 minutes. Yeah, I think so.
Well, I'm just thinking here. I'm, you know, as everyone else is chatting. So I guess I moved to London in 2006, and I'm a graduate of Fanshawe. I took broadcast journalism, and honestly, a major part of the reason why I'm sitting in this, like my career path has been so out of control, like and I mean out of control, like it just hasn't been the same thing. My family is like finally acknowledged that, you know, Savannah's doing her own thing and eventually she'll get where she needs to get. But so my path has been wild, and but when I took broadcast journalism, you get assigned. So you get assigned to be on a beat, and I asked if I could be put on the arts and culture beat. And so for 5 weeks, I had to report on arts and culture that was going on in the community. So that was my first real opportunity in London to get a grasp of what was happening here. And so, honestly, I just thought about this moment when Alayna was speaking about Beal Art. But those were the moments that I learned about the Arts Project. And I learned about, this would have been, 2006, learned about what was going on in the theater community. And anyways, it really sparked my interest. And so I would say that those 5 weeks really changed my position, because to be honest, my thought was, I am doing this program and I'm going to Toronto as fast as possible, get me out of here. And because I got to know people through that program and got to interview community and got to meet community members, there are people that I interviewed for documentaries that I made in college that I'm still friends with, that I still know today. You know, like the Unity Project. I did a project on the Unity Project, for example, which is a homeless shelter in town. And Chuck Lazenby, the executive director, is a good friend now, but we met through that process. So I'm only sharing that story because you just never know what these relationships might form and turn into. And I think that that has been my experience in London with community, has been about relationships. So that moment sort of shifted a lot for me. So I got a job at Budweiser Gardens in 2006, and I worked in that building for 12 years in lots of different roles and capacities. I served tables. I started a collective when we started throwing shows. Then we started our festival, which we ran for 10 years, called Grickle Grass. And it all just snowballed, right? And then at one point, because we were involved in the music community, and I started freelancing and doing other production work outside of London. Like, you know, I did TIFF and I did Way Home and I did some other large scale festival work. I started to see the gap, which is youth. And, you know, Girls Rock Camp is a thing all over the world. Anyone can do it. And so this would have been our 6th year. Obviously camp didn't run this summer, but that was also another like pivotal shift, which was like, okay, let's rally this community of artistic folks. You don't have to be a musician if you're an arts administrator, if you're an artist, whatever. Let's rally and start that program. So again, pulling community into a new community was a really amazing experience, and pushing musicians, like, so, and I mean that in a positive way, like amazing guitar players in town who were like, oh, I can't teach kids. And I'm like, but you can. I bet you can, you know? And so then all of a sudden you have people who didn't think that they could teach kids how to play guitar are loving teaching kids how to play guitar. So it's all been this evolution of, as we grow and evolve, what else can we do, and how else can we support the community? Because if you care, back to resiliency, if you care about what's coming next, you know, for yourself, it's important for you to understand what's coming up behind you. And that's why I think the youth part is so important. But anyways, it's a ramble, but it's been a long path for me. And to be working in this job now that's city funded and it's cultural, I mean, I'm very grateful and recognize that these jobs are few and far between. And I will tell you that it hasn't been easy because I don't come from the bureaucracy. But it's also been really enlightening to know when your community is starting to understand the value of culture and community. So it's been a journey, but I got here in 2006 and I'm somehow still here.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's just, I feel like that's a brief history of your time in London. I think the thing I admire most is that you have really been able to self-identify as a person who is good at doing this, at rallying, at coordinating, at facilitating all these big productions. They're big. And I think like all communities, need people like you to do that, because it's just a lot of work. You know, it's a lot of work. And to know how to pick those people too. You mentioned, you know, oh, I need to find people who can teach, who can do this. And it doesn't matter what background they come from. They don't need to come from an administrative or facilitating background. They just need to know a skill, and that skill could be warped in many different ways. So very, very valuable.
Sometimes we don't value ourselves enough to know that we've got transferable skills. You know, just because if you're really good at doing taxes means you're probably really good at doing like other kinds of bookkeeping and numbers, and like you could probably help budget forecasts and you know what I mean? Like there's just all these things that we we have to sometimes push ourselves to remember that we are more valuable than we think.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you. Okay. I would love to talk about, you've all kind of touched a little bit on this from your personal kind of life transferring to your business life, or if you've bounced around a lot, which I think is really valuable experience. My next question is, how do you balance presenting as a business and also as a business owner or a person, right? These are things that a lot of people struggle with. Do I show my face? How much do I talk about myself? All these things. I'd be curious to hear each of your perspectives, and we'll start with Alayna this time.
Sure. So personally, I feel like there's a bit more balance and maybe a bit more divide sometimes between like what I identify as like my personal communities and my business communities. And there's definitely a lot of overlap. But I do also really like to navigate those spaces as like separate self-identities a little bit. So that's something for me that's been important with SoftFlirt, is like maintaining my sense of individuality and like my personal life and keeping that a little bit more separate from the business side of things. But I like to be present as myself as an entrepreneur in a lot of community aspects. So for me, I think I've like in the past maybe 2 years kind of understood how that works a little bit better and how to approach things maybe from the perspective of like, this is something where like SoftFlirt as a brand can step up to versus Alayna Hryclik, the entrepreneur behind SoftFlirt and the business owner of SoftFlirt. So, you know, there's certain things that make more sense inherently to put the brand name behind versus my own personal name. And the best example I can think is in the last couple years, I've been doing more like artist talks or like specific directed workshops and like webinars, typically to young artists. And for those instances, I, you know, introduce as Alayna versus a lot of times when I'm meeting people, I'm introducing myself as SoftFlirt, because for me, it's like the brand is the thing that I want people to like connect with and remember in that scenario. So a lot of overlap, a lot of like balance, a lot of kind of teetering back and forth, but it tends to work out. But I think that for me, just something that I wanted to kind of add into that is that I do really like to have like my own separate little personal community ties as well, just because I think it keeps me like grounded as well as like excited, that not everything becomes something that can feel like work. Not that everything that I participate in as like a business mind feels like work, but sometimes it can. So it's kind of where I align there.
Thank you. We'll go to Robin next.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I have a bit of a different relationship in that, like, I mean, I feel like I partially kind of like fell into screen printing. Like it just, I just naturally, you know, I started doing it as a hobby and then getting carried away with it. You know, when I moved to Halifax, when I moved to the Yukon, like I spent a lot of my time in both of those places learning about silk screening. But I think for me, it's just, I don't separate my work and me kind of at all. You know, it's like, if I guess because, I don't know, it's hard for me to articulate because I really feel there isn't much of a divide between like my work life and my home life. You know, more often than not, I wake up and I answer my emails in bed. I go to work like on my days off just to like sometimes spend time at my studio and draw there, even though I could easily draw while I'm at home. And so when I present the business, it largely is presenting like myself as well, you know, because a lot of the shirts that I print, like maybe, yeah, like the majority of the shirts that I print are things that I've illustrated. And so for me, I have a really hard time like disconnecting my work life and my personal life. Like certainly, like I can come home and like turn it off and you know, watch a movie sometimes, but it's not like my like strongest feature. It drives me a little bit crazy too. And I also just feel like the stuff that I do outside of work so strongly informs what I do inside of work. You know, the fact that my relationship with the music community is what informed my relationship with printmaking and like pushed me towards entrepreneurship. Like I can't, you know, now those spaces that I used to go to for fun, concerts and stuff like that, that's a workplace for me now. You know, like that's a place where I network. That's a place where I do get a lot out of it still, and I still find like the music part enjoyable, but I'm still at work. I feel like when I go out to like concerts or if I go out to a bar, and like, you know, it's really hard for me to like switch that off. I also feel like it's kind of impossible for me to like separate myself from my work, but also to some extent like the people that I work with, in that like I don't know that I have a lot of like friends, like people that I just spend time with because we enjoy each other. I think 90% of the people in my life are friends, but like also collaborators, like including yourself, Andre, and Savannah, and Alayna. Like that's how we know each other, is like, you know, we're friends, but we're also like collaborators. So for me, I don't think I do separate my work and my personal.
Well, there's no right answer, right? Like I think it all depend on everyone's business, the communities that they're in. But I think that there's a lot to be said about how much is informed about our businesses from what we absorb around our communities. And what you said, like there's a lot of personal value that you put into your work. You know, the stuff you're making is causes that you also care about. You know what I mean? Businesses that you're collaborating with are people who you want to promote, you want to see flourish as well. And so there's nothing negative about that. You know, it's okay for that to mix together and then influence the way you experience your business.
Yeah, and I think on one of those notes is like, just because like a thing doesn't bring you profit doesn't mean that you're not like as a business going to benefit from it. You know, like honestly, like all three of us, I think, have put so much things that will not pay ours, you know, like that's just like a huge part of it. You know, the thing is though, like if you build a stronger community, whether it's by teaching someone silk screening who just like message you and is like, hey, can I come in and learn? Or doing a plus size clothing swap, or organizing a concert, like most of those things don't pay you very well, but my screen printing business couldn't exist if there wasn't a music and small business community in London. So every time I do anything that benefits the broader community, it does benefit me in the end. You know, it's not necessarily like you don't organize a concert or a workshop out of like a selfish intent of like, I'm going to profit from this later. You just have to know that like by directly involving your business or your craft or yourself into a community, like you're building a stronger community, and no businesses can exist without like a strong community. Like otherwise we'd all just be only ever shopping at Walmart.
Yeah, it's a great point. We all benefit from it. Savannah, go ahead.
This is a tough one for me. I'm going to speak to this about from like what's the word? Oh my God, I just lost it. Taking care of yourself is how I'm going to talk about this point, because I feel like I've been hustling for so long. That's how I would describe what I've been doing, that I haven't taken care of myself. And so this quarantine has actually, like, I'm happy to talk openly about how difficult it's been for me, because when you get me, you get all of me. You get my family, you get my child, you get my shitty van, like you get all of it. And so I've really had to take this time to take care of myself and remember that because I identify so much with my work and I am defined by my work and I want to be defined by my work, that it is still extraordinarily important to take a step back and take care of yourself, because I haven't really done that. And one of the things that's really interesting about my role right now is that I am supporting a lot of businesses. And so recognizing all the entrepreneurs that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, how emotional the grind is for everybody, especially in this time, I've really had to learn how to, like breathe and recognize where my role comes into play, and then at what point I have to take a step back, because when you are too defined by your work, you can get so caught up, and that isn't healthy either. But the pandemic has really highlighted that for us and my family. We live in an open concept house. We have a toddler. And so we had 100 days essentially where I was working full time on Zoom calls, 8 hours a day with a toddler in the background. And it was just a really stressful time. But what it did was it reminded me that if I'm not physically able to make the difference between work and home and community, that we had to figure out as a family how to do that in this time, in this space together, which was a challenge because we like to do things and we're busy and we like to be out in community. So it's been a really interesting time for us. And I think I'm seeing the light now. Like I feel much better, in case you're wondering. But I just think it's important. It's just been an important reminder for me, not only as like a person working in community, but also for the businesses that I've been working with, and reminding them that obviously I'm here to help when I can. I certainly can't solve everybody's issues. I can't fix things. I can't fix, broken windows. Like I want to do, I can't. So again, just identifying what you have control of and how you present yourself and is important. So I guess I'm really speaking to like the current situation.
Well, no, I think that what you're saying is also resonant to regular times. You know what I mean? Like business owners are always working overtime, pushing themselves to the very limit. So very relevant, regardless of what circumstances we find ourselves in.
Yeah, burnout culture is like a huge thing with being, in business, and like I think a lot of what Savannah was saying there too just makes me think of how I navigate my own burnout, because I'm very susceptible to it. And I think having those like separations helps you, like even just creating some boundaries in your own mind is like very beneficial.
And things like social media, which I think we all feel the pressure to have to perform on or be on, or like I had to turn Twitter notifications off because it wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't making me feel good anymore. And that's okay. Like I went through this moment of like, oh my God, no. But then no, at the end of the day, if it's not making you feel good and it's causing you more stress and anxiety, then you need to take a step back and evaluate, okay, let's work on what I need to work on. And then when I feel comfortable again, I'll go back there. Or, like how much you decide to share on social media. Like, don't feel like you have to share everything. You don't have to. Or do it when you feel good. Like, do it when you feel ready. It's in my perspective, just from like watching a lot of friends have businesses and it just the evolution of the business sector change. I think it's important to recognize that it's okay to take your time with those things,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you guys all touched on this. The next question I was going to ask is around the differentiating between customer prospecting. So you guys talked about kind of this fine line of, am I networking, am I with my friends? And then so defining the difference between customer prospecting and then community service. So you all also mentioned things that you do with your businesses or by yourself that produce no profit, that it's purely for giving, which is really, really important part of building community, which we then all benefit from. So my next question is, how do you choose your causes and where to spend your time? You've all talked about how you are short on time, how you are, burning out, all these things. So how do you choose what causes, where to spend your time, finding time to work on your business and be involved in your community and being intentional about that? How are you intentional about choosing those things? We'll start with Robin this time.
I mean, I guess for me, I went through like a good period of like being a pretty hardcore like activist, anarchist kind of stuff. And I kind of actually like burnt myself out on that like going to protests type thing, you know, like it really took a lot out of me, and I realized that you know, I have really bad social anxiety. I don't do well in crowds, and I realized that I can do more functioning at an intersection that I feel comfortable with than I've ever been able to do, like marching on the streets or you know, like any of the more like hooliganism type stuff that I was involved with. The fact is like now I have a beautiful print shop and a really strong community surrounding me, and like I don't think I can separate my success from my relationship to Adam, Savannah's partner, because like there was a point where Adam approached me and was like, hey, you silkscreen in the arts community, I silkscreen in the arts community, you silkscreen for the music community, I silkscreen for the music community, you're Anishinaabe, I'm Anishinaabe, or Chippewa, and like and he was like, we shouldn't be competitors. We should like help each other out. Like we don't have to be the same business, but we can be allies to each other. And like he had conceptualized something that I had like only like vaguely dreamed of, which was like, I was like, I want to create a community art space, you know, a place that people can come learn and silkscreen. And there's something that I had like thought about for a long time, especially because in Halifax there's a place called the Arc that serves like homeless kids, and they have a silkscreen set up there, which is one of the places that I really like started learning. And so like I was like, oh, it would be cool if I could do that, but I could never be that person that is like stable enough to like be teaching other people things. And it felt out of my grasp. But then Adam approached me with that, and through our allyship, through like mutual Indigenous support, we like resonance came out of that. And that was something that he had conceptualized, which was a youth program that focuses around skill building, small business building, but it's specifically oriented around indigeneity and around like creating jobs and economic sovereignty for people in our community. So I think I needed somebody who maybe had a little bit of a bigger picture, you know, like it's kind of nice to be kind of told what direction to go in sometimes. And I don't think that that's a negative thing, you know, it at least for me, like, you know, like I've always been like a little bit all over the place, a little bit wily. And I think that I like having people who have like a bit of a clearer idea, but have like a similar drive to you has been like really important. And now that we've like established that and we've established our print shop, we do things like the Black Lives Matter shirts that Andre, you helped me collaborate on. The shirts for Deb, Chris, John that we recently printed. You know, it's I would say that probably every maybe like fifth or sixth print job that we do is one that is like oriented specifically around helping the community. And yeah, and lately that's been like more about supporting POCs, but sometimes it's about supporting queerness, sometimes it's about supporting you know, like immigration or whatever. Like we do all sorts of different jobs, but now we have this great way that we can do it, which is largely for us like helping with graphic design and print shirts. Like that's what I could do, and that is so much more productive and so much healthier for me than you know, rioting or protesting or you know, not that I'll condemn either, but I've done it all and I feel healthier doing it this way.
That's awesome. Thank you. We'll go to Savannah next.
I would say, because I haven't really sort of owned or managed my own business that has like a product. It's a little bit different when it comes to customers. But what I would say is that everything that has happened in my existence in this community has been about people, and it has been about relationships. And I would say that when there hasn't been budgets for things like marketing or communications, like it's been about people. And so I would just say that I figured out a long time ago that my strength was people, and I just have figured out from there how to build and connect with people. And that's what I guess comes back to what community is. But like I said, any of the events, like so many people even on this call have participated in things that we've done, because it's like me picking up the phone and being like, okay, I need this. How do we collaborate? How do we do this? What do you need? How do we work together? Who's got a PA? Who's got power? Like my whole career has been that. But it's, like for example, I started as a server at Budweiser Gardens a million years ago, serving hockey games. And now I have like a very good relationship with the general manager, and we're like in meetings together now, like that's relationship building and customer acquisition, like however you want to position it. But it's relationships. And so that's what it's been for me. It's been about people. And when you build that trust with people through a service, which I guess is kind of what my life has been around, services and like events and things like that, it's been about that. So I would say that's my experience.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think there's plenty to learn about relationships and the importance of them in building anything. So, Alayna, go ahead.
I feel like not a lot to add there. Just in the sense that relationships guide and govern all of my community building. But in terms of kind of how I figure out where to spend time lately, that's looked a little bit more like really focusing in on what I'm passionate about, and how can I advocate for myself and others through that. And so for me, that's been more specifically the arts community, and more specifically with my direct business. And I think when I'm able to kind of like narrow my focus a little bit, it can give me like a wider like response in terms of my ideas that I'm generating and the connections I'm able to make. Because I think before I was spreading myself too thin, and then maybe things weren't really actualizing as like really concrete, actionable things or like great results. But now with a bit more focus, it's kind of, I'm able to see a bit more clearly where like my intentions should be, and what creates the most impact based off of that. So yeah. And then what else was I going to say about that? I had another point. I think I forgot. But yeah, I think it's really great to see like how we've all kind of evolved through this, and how the like people building is kind of like a big part of community. And also like even just this panel, like I think a lot about like my own start as SoftLert happened about a year after I was interning for Adam. So a lot of these like, personal growth has happened out of community, and I don't think I'd have a business if we didn't have such a strong community that I am lucky to be a part of. So it's all a really beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I can't say that I was completely objective when I chose the three of you. The three of you, yeah. I mean, you have all, I notice how much you do in general for community building, but you have all also impacted me in very big ways, and have also helped launch my career. So there's no way to underestimate how much you can gain from meeting people, from building relationships, from also giving to your community before you even expect anything in return, which is, I think, what we're all learning about right now. You all talked a lot about kind of this support system between all of you, this relationship building, how community is stronger when we're together, all these things. So I'd love the last question to be about this support system you talk about. So how do you support each other between as business owners or as community members that are navigating the business landscape like Savannah is? And more specifically, if you can touch on how you do it in general, but also how you do it during tough times like we are now, when your community is negatively impacted, when it can't be physically together, how do you still find ways to do that? And we'll start with Savannah this time.
I would say that for me, because I've had the opportunity to meet and connect with so many amazing people, for me, I'm always trying to, connect the dots. And I feel really fortunate to have this job. It's like, I'm also very happy to note, it's the best paying job I've ever had. And so I also feel a responsibility to make sure that I spend all of my money. So I spend a lot of my money in community, and I am very conscious about that. I'm very aware of where I spend my money and who I support. And I would say that I hope I know that in early entrepreneurship, it's difficult because we're navigating it, and it's sweat equity, and there's usually no money. And I totally understand that. And I think that there are other ways to collaborate and work on that. And I think Alayna and Robin both have immense amounts of experience of that. And I think it eventually does turn into monetary pieces along the way. But for me, early on in the pandemic, there's a really great urbanist that I follow. Her name is Jay Pitter, and I'm not sure if anybody's heard of her, but I would highly suggest you follow her. She's based out of Toronto. She's really focused on equitable spaces for people and how our public spaces actually aren't built to be equitable for marginalized people. And it's just her work is amazing. And one of the things I saw her say early on was, if you have money in your pocket, you need to be sending e-transfers out the door. You need to be putting money in people's pockets. You need to be understanding where your role is in this. And I'm sounding like a capitalist, but I'm truly not. But these moments matter, especially in this current time of where can I put my resources? So honestly, yesterday was the first time I went to the grocery store I would say I went to the grocery store once during this pandemic. I shifted my entire purchasing to the grocery services that Rebel Remedy set up, that Grace set up, moved my stuff to On the Move Organics. And again, I'm recognizing that I'm saying this from a place of privilege, but it's also a privilege that I've never had. So I'm very excited to dish it out. I'm just not that I'm super loaded. I'm also not saying that, but I'm just saying that I feel a responsibility, and I feel responsibility to the businesses, especially along Dundas Place. Filthy Rubina was doing story sales. I'm great, I'm obviously not going to shop. Of course, I'd love to buy those pants. So shifting my purchasing power has been really important during this time. But previously, before I had any money, it was very focused on collaboratively, how do we work together? How do we, whether it's through an event or a project, connecting the dots, how do we leverage those things? But does that make sense? Did I answer your question? Because I feel like I didn't answer that.
No, I totally did. I think the one thing also is we can occupy space, which is very valuable for certain businesses. So just going to an event, even if you don't have any money to spend at the event, just being there to show that support, to show that it's successful, so that these organizations or whatever businesses are hosting know that it's worth doing again.
And that's a part of the hustle. Back in the day when I was overextending myself, which this goes into the last question, which is I did everything. I was on every committee. I was on every board. I did anything for everybody. I didn't have a pot to take a pee in. But it all mattered in the end. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. What I think shifted that and stopped that was obviously having a child, where we're oh, we can't go to a show 7 days a week, but that's okay too, because it just shifts your ideas. But there's always a way that you can support, whether you have money in your pocket or not. I just wanted to use that as an example because I feel very happy that I, during this time, had a job and I was able to support where I could.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Robin, we'll go to you.
I mean, I guess to me, like, I think I spoke a little bit to it in that I feel like a pretty like tremendous amount of like social responsibility. You know, in that like I used to be like a very, very hardcore activist, and now now that I don't function in that way, I only really feel like as a person I have like 3 kind of skills, you know, maybe 4 if I'm being generous. But like I really think, you know, like I know how to draw, I know how to talk to people, and I know how to print shirts. Like those are really like my only 3 things. And
you're a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, Anna.
Generous.
Wood.
But you know, I just feel like, you know, like I'm not a person who does everything. I'm a person who does a few things well. So how do I like leverage that to serve other people? You know, that's the goal anyways, is to like do it in a good way. Cause you know, like I could be a printmaker who who's only printing for my pockets, you know, and like that would be cool because then I could afford a house or something. I don't know. But like that's just kind of like not how I was raised. It's not how I've been. And also like, you know, I need to acknowledge the places that I've come from, you know, like while I was raised in a good family, like in my adult life, like I've known homelessness, I've known, you know, what it is to like have like sleep for dinner kind of thing. And so there's a responsibility for, you know, the question was like in, you know, in times like these, like what are you, and yeah, so I feel that I've benefited a lot from programs, so like some like YOU, some, you know, like government, like social assistance and stuff like that. And then others, you know, like I think the most impactful probably on my life was the ARC in Halifax. You know, it was like literally just 2 like 60-year-old women who knew every homeless person in Halifax and would cook you a hot meal and be like, you know, like you draw really great. You should learn, you should like pursue that. And they would like, you know, just like encourage you. And if it wasn't for those encouraging words and stuff like that, like I don't know that I would have pursued those things in a serious way. You know, I always knew that I wanted to do art, and like finally now I've figured it out, like how to pay my bills with it. But it took a long time to get there, and now that I'm here, it's my absolute responsibility to be encouraging, you know, to see a young artist and be like, hey, what you're doing is really cool. I would love to print for you. I can do it at cost. Or, you know, it's like not uncommon is that I use like a social media platform and relationships with other artists in London to print shirts and sell them for a cause. Usually I do it in a limited run just because budget and time. But now I'm, you know, like, yeah, it's largely just like, for me, do what you can at the intersection that you exist. For me, that is, you know, someone who has been homeless, someone who has like struggled with mental health stuff, and someone who has a print shop. So I need, you know, I got a responsibility for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, use the tools that you got. You don't have to do everything. Do what you do well and like serve other people with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. That's really, really great. I think that we have the opportunity to become mentors in our community, to teach, and what Savannah said really hit home, that we don't understand how valuable we are sometimes, right? So to really take the initiative to do those things can, you know, change a whole person's life if it's not obvious already. Alayna, go ahead.
Yeah, I think both of those are really beautiful answers, and mine's maybe a little bit lighter for this specific question, but I was thinking a lot about like what I've done during COVID and how I've activated my community, and for me that has like had its own path and its own arc as I deal with like my own mental health and emotions through a pandemic. But largely, especially towards the beginning, I was just like, okay, well, what am I good at? Endless optimism. Okay, cool. Let's just pump out a bunch of graphic design and digital artwork that is silly and ridiculous and also furthers the movement of like what we need to be doing as a society right now. So I made some wash your dang hands and like flatten the curve, and made a talk moistly to me t-shirt drawing that popped off online, and then decided, okay, I need to print those, and that's been great. But so I think for me, like at my core, that's usually what I'm trying to do. So during a pandemic, I was like, how do I translate that to online? And ultimately, I think it all goes back to like showing up for other people. And when we can't do that in person, for me, like it just shifts to online. So using social media to make sure that you're still connecting with the people that you care about, and that the businesses you want to support, even if it can't be financial. Although Savannah makes a very good point, and I really love that response. Sorry, I'm laughing at Kelly. Too hot. Anyway, but yeah, I think that shifting how you show up for others when it can't be in person, and like thinking about the ways that you can kind of mold that to whatever the situation requires, is like a really powerful thing that makes people feel supported and cared for. And I think ultimately like community is like caring for others, and that's something that I do in my personal life with my friends. I feel like I'm the eternal empath of my friend group, and like any way that you can kind of add some lightness is usually my own personal take on support. So that's kind of what I did. But yeah, I think I really like the way that Savannah phrased, like, you know, kind of putting your money where your mouth is with like local stuff. And that's something I've been trying to do a lot more lately as well. And also, you know, here and there, wherever I can, if I can do a design for somebody else, and kind of sort of what Robin's been doing with like offering things at cost. I did a shirt design for a friend who was having a bit of a hard time during the pandemic with their business, and was able to translate that into some money in her pocket. So anytime you can kind of lend your own skills, so long as you have, you know, the time and the energy to do that without harming yourself, I think is a really important way to like share back into your community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alayna. That's really, really great. So that was our last formal question. I want to open the floor to everybody who's present and see if they have any questions. I see Omar already has his hands up, so he can go ahead.
Hi, guys. It's a pleasure to meet all three of you. I got a quick question. You know, because of this whole pandemic thing, it's forced us to stay inside. I was going to ask, where do you find the internal strength to kind of outsource to a community that's, you know, mainly indoors? Or how do you find the people that need help? Where do you find the time to do that?
Anybody can answer, by the way. Just go ahead. And
I kind of think it's like a ask and ye shall receive kind of thing. You know, if you put it out there that you have resources and the energy to help people, they're going to come to you and ask for it. Like, you know, let people know what you can do. Like that's, yeah, that's for me, that's my tactic. I literally do it. And then sometimes if you see a hole that needs filling, you know, like, and you got a shovel, like, looks like you're the one.
Yeah, I think like listening and trying to pay attention to maybe like the underlying message behind what people are saying, especially online during all of this, is an important way to like watch out for any kind of pitfalls people might be experiencing. And if you're in a position to be able to offer some help to deal with that, then I think that's a really great thing to do. But I think not everyone is capable of asking for the help that they need. In our community and otherwise. So being able to kind of, you know, keep that in the back of your mind and be a bit more aware and watch out for certain signs is something that can help offer assistance to those people when they need them.
Yeah, one of the things, like I have like I've said, I found this time to be very isolating, even though I'm like, quote unquote, I wouldn't call it trapped, but you know, trapped with a 3-year-old has been like a real crazy thing. But and I love him, but I spent a lot of time on the phone, and I would say that I just called, like in the early days, I was calling people just to check in, and I was really just saying, hey, I don't have an agenda, you know, like some of my vendors and folks that I work with on the regular, how you doing? Like, what's going on? How's your business shifted? Have you heard about the subsidies? Are you able to access them? Like, what's going on? It was very just like casual, are you okay? And then I think that that's like funneled into maybe more consistent check-ins, because one of the things that we found, because I spend a lot of time chatting with our businesses on the street, like even just having someone listen on the other end of the phone is really important. And again, I don't necessarily have all the solutions, but I found it has built up this trust during the pandemic, so that now we're in this moment where we are opening up the street to pedestrians, and I'm looking for businesses to get involved, and like we're all still trying to be really safe, but we've built a bit of a trust, if that makes sense. So you'd be surprised how much like a phone call goes, you know, just to check in to see how people are doing, because we can't physically be together.
Awesome, thank you. Christine.
Hi, nice meeting you, everybody, again. I got some question because Savannah, especially the Dundas place, because I have been trying to see if there's any opportunity, because I got 2 projects in my head that I'm trying to, you know, kind of roll it out. But the first one is I'm thinking about creating some sort of like a mobile music thingy or mobile band. Looking for, in my head is like a trailer or some sort, like maybe a little cute band. So then the musician or people that casually can play music, because now we're stopping the opportunities. People cannot hang out for concert or big, you know, we just unfortunate all those big festivals that we had, and it's no longer there, especially by that strip there. We used to have Canada Day celebration. I was so involved with that. But a lot of people are losing that opportunities, and using art as music, for one example, connecting them together is really helping them to cope with the isolation, the uncertainty, and even like their anxiety around financial, education, family, you know, everything. So I'm thinking about, is there any opportunity in this place that we can do something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're open to any conversations at this point. This is exploratory. This is what we're doing. We're experimenting. We're figuring out what people feel safe doing. You know, I've booked 2 bands now, and it's felt really nice. Like, it felt really nice to say, hey, would you like to play a show? Also, are you feeling comfortable playing a show? And if you are, how do we make those parameters safe for you? So, you know, we had a band play on the street last week. It's actually other studio mates from City Rest, Sean and Hanan, who are great, or Sean's band. And people were so receptive, because people, I think, not only were the musicians happy and there was lots of distance, but the patrons were like, oh my God, I haven't seen a band in months and months. So I think that there's ways we can slowly get back into it. To answer your question, it's funny, I had someone reach out to me who's been doing these concerts on top of vehicles. I can't remember the name of it. I'll find out and I'll send it to Andre and he can share. But yeah, I think these concepts are what we're kind of looking towards. So if you want to have a chat, happy to have a chat.
Yes, I will. I wouldn't mind that, because I found it's not only the player, like we can do like those tuning music, you know, you put a tuning in a hat and you can play like everybody can jam in that kind of thing. I think it was in East Village or some sort. I forgot the actual name, but anyways, we can do like those jamming. People can come up and down. Like, of course, like has to be some sort of like regulation or some sort, but also benefit not only the musician or the people who wants to play, but the audience and then the community, that kind of thing. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna, you know, email you and then we can start a conversation.
Sure.
I'll share each of the contact information for everybody, and then Savannah, Alayna, and Robin, I'll send you a document of everyone's profile, so you can also contact them through that way too.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for your question, Christine. Any other questions I can take from the audience? Kelly?
I just have a comment. I just want to say that I miss the studio. I miss City Rest a lot. I miss you guys a lot. So
You,
Kelly.
that's it.
talk to you soon. We did not get enough time together.
No, definitely not.
I think Chris has a question.
Yeah, it's for Robin actually. So I was wondering, it's not necessarily, yeah, it is about community. So how, you lived in the Yukon before, like how is it, it must be so different towards London. Like how is it like living there? Like what was the community like there, and what is the difference between London, and how do you like make those two together? Yeah.
I mean, for me, I learned actually like a lot of lessons about community while living in the Yukon.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I came from, you know, the punk community in London, and everyone says, oh, the punk community, the community, everyone talks about it nonstop in bigger cities. They talk about it all the time. In Dawson, almost nobody talks about it. And I don't know if you know where Dawson is. It's 30 hours above Vancouver is Whitehorse, and 10 hours further is Dawson. So it's a really
No, what's funny, I work at a call center, like whatever, it's a part-time job, doing like calling people, doing like surveys and stuff like that. So well, I don't do it right now, but so we were calling like this like campaign in the Yukon. So I literally, when I was calling people, I was like Googling like all these different places in the Yukon. So I kind of know where it is, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really northern community and therefore really isolated.
Yeah. And
they don't talk about community there. It just happens, like naturally, because it's isolated. It's very natural. You know, it also has in the winter 24 hours of darkness. So like you have to be involved in your community, otherwise you literally become like totally cabin fever nutso. But I think my favorite example is that, you know, I try not to be like ashamed of it and stuff like that, but you know, like I'm someone who has not always been like very financially well off, and not always been able to like, you know, provide for myself, and it's not like ideal, but it is the way my life has been. And so I used to go to the food bank when I was in Dawson, and I think for me that is a really good example of it, because once I walked home, I had the bag from the food bank, which was like a huge paper bag. And the next day, someone showed up at my house with a casserole. They said, I saw you walking home yesterday with a bag from the food bank. I thought I'd make you a casserole. And
wow. So nice. Like that wouldn't happen.
That simple and that unprompted. And to me, that was like, that to me is like the ideal example of community. It's like, if you see a need and you can fill it, like try to be that person. You know, we don't always have infinite, endless energy to like serve the community, but like sometimes like little simple things like that kind of go a long way. You know, that's something I literally like cried on my front porch because it was such like a generous act from like this 90-year-old woman. Like,
yeah, that's really sweet.
So I guess for me, yeah, like I learned that in like a small community, like I guess I learned by living in the Yukon in an isolated place, like community is actually a mandatory thing in order to like survive. Like you really have to serve the community. And you know, it's easy to get distracted when you're in a big city, but you know, it exists here too.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah, like being part of LEAP, and yeah, I just find like, yeah, London, there's so much more community building than I thought, for sure.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. And I mean, it really proves our whole point. The fact that you still remember that and think about it so vividly. Yeah, I think that's a really, really great lesson. And it's true. Big cities distract us from community building in this way. You know, the smaller communities are even more tight woven because they absolutely need each other. So if we keep that mentality, despite wherever we are, I think it'll benefit whatever community we find ourselves in. Does anyone have any other questions? We have about 4 minutes left. No?
Who has one?
Who has one, sorry?
Me.
Oh, nice. Go ahead.
Hi, friends. So my question, you sort of touched on it when you talked about transitioning to this time of COVID-19, but when thinking about community and sort of the different types of community, you all kind of touched on communities of practice and communities of action and communities of place. And my question is, do you find that you use different strategies when engaging with those different types of communities that you all walk between?
I mean, I'll definitely say yes. Like I think I mentioned in the first question that like community to me is twofold. Today we're talking about the small business community, but I also am Anishinaabe, and we have ceremonies, we have traditions, we have elders, and like I engage with that community in a really different way, even in like the language, even in the way I go about things. Like in a small business community, you're a little bit more bold, you're a little bit more self-promoting. Like when I'm at ceremony, like I shush right up. Like it's like I'm exclusively there to listen, and like do what I'm told. So I think you have to read the room, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
I agree with that. Read the room.
Yeah.
Understand where you're at. I mean, I also bop around in between like really heavy bureaucratic meetings where, yep, I was on one this morning where I just cut my mouth, like you have to know a time and a place to participate and where I've really had to learn how to, like insert my opinion, because I certainly am full of opinions at all times. And so I really had to figure out how to strategically position my opinions and where that belongs and how it belongs, and also your approach, right? So when you're in those rooms versus, at a music festival versus, on site at an event trying to like get the porta potties fixed, like it's all very different in my world at least. But yeah, I would say it's read the room. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that it's important to not be a leader in every single community engagement. In that, like, sometimes, like, maybe I'm a leader when I'm teaching at Resonance or when I'm in my print shop because, like, that's the job that, like, Adam and I have created for ourselves. We're the teachers in Resonance. We teach the interns how to build businesses and how to screen print. But in most other environments, I'm not qualified to be a leader. Like, that's it. Like most other situations, I'm there to learn. And I gotta know that and like know where that distinction is. Because sometimes like being a leader in one environment informs like your ego and you end up taking up too much space. So it's kind of like, self-moderating or listening to other people who are like telling you to step back and listen.
Sure. Really important to know all that. Okay, well, we're basically at noon. I'm gonna quickly just give each of them a small plug. If you do want to connect with either Savannah, Alayna, or Robin, I think there are plenty of ways each of you could find a way to collaborate. For Savannah specifically, she has already mentioned she's looking for ways to activate Dundas Place and its Flex Street. So how can your business work with her to activate our downtown London community and maybe give your business some visibility? For Alayna, I said Soft Flirt is in the Western Fair Market on the second floor towards the back, where you can see all that she's up to. And she's usually in the midst of planning a ton of events during the summer. So I'm hoping that when she can, you guys can attend some of those. Keep a lookout for those. Robin, who's behind Antler River Press. So Robin's print shop is located in Old East Village, as I said, and almost always open to new collaborations or print jobs. So if you're looking to make some merchandise for your business, I think it's a great opportunity. Actually, the shirts that you all received for Leap In were printed by Robin. Really beautiful job. So if you need a testament, you have one in front of you. And I'll provide the email for Robin as well. Thank you very much for all three of you for being here. I really, really appreciate it. These conversations are my favorite to have or to listen to. So I really appreciate you taking the time. We're just gonna do a quick goodbye. I'm gonna take a quick photo and then we'll be good. So everybody wave goodbye to Robin, Alayna, and Savannah. Great. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you for having us. It was really nice to see you all.
Thank you all. We appreciate your time so much.
Take care.
Anytime. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Go to bed, Kelly.
I'll miss you guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Robin, I don't know if you froze at that point. Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
You were kind of given the outros.
Yeah. Sorry. Basically, just said I'll be giving everyone's contact information, and then we just wave goodbye. So, thank you for coming. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for hosting.
Bye.
Thanks, Robin.
Miss you, Kelly.
I miss you too. I miss the shop.